Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear students, I hope you all are doing well and enjoying your sound health, your home studies, and your studies with Pakistan International School Types virtual learning system. Dear students, this is first year class for the subject biology, and in this lecture we are gonna start our next chapter, that is about protists and fungi. We have started diversity among different organisms. So right before we have seen acellular organisms, then we have seen prokaryotes. Now we will see another group of organisms, that is protists and fungi. So today we will talk about protists only. So in that we will talk about major groups of protists. So what are protists? They belong to the domain eukaryo. As we have seen that there are three domains. So in that, first is archaea, and then we have seen bacteria in which prokaryotes are there. Now we will see eukarya. In this protists, like if we just talk about protista, that is including in kingdom, that is the kingdom protista, second major kingdom after prokaryotes, and contains the most diverse organisms of all the kingdoms. So they may be unicellular or multicellular. They are microscopic or very large. They are heterotrophic or autotrophic. So there is no such organism as a typical protist. The characteristics that all protists share is that, unlike bacteria, they all are eukaryotes. So the major difference between prokaryotes and protists is that protists are having membrane bounded nucleus, so that is called prokaryote. So some protists are autotrophs like plants, others are consumers like animals. So unlike plants and animals, they do not have cell organized into special tissues. Mostly are unicellular, but some are multicellular as well. So you can see different type of protists in these diagrams. Protists are having three major categories. Number one is animal like, plant like, number two, and number three is fungus like protists. Here you can see the diversity among the organisms present in this protist kingdom. Like some protists behave like animals, some behave like plants, and some behave like fungi. So first of all, we'll talk about animal like protists. Animal like protists is called as protozoans. Proto means first and zoon means animal. So they are the first animals. They contain, their cells contain, or like they are mostly are unicellular, and cells contain a nucleus, proper nucleus, and they lack cell wall. That's why, as well as they are heterotrophs, that's why they are specialized as animal like protists, and they can move on their own. There are four groups of animal like protist, sarcodine, in which in sarcodines, amoeba like amoeboid structures are present. In ciliates, the protozoans which are having cilia, they are present. In flagellates, the protozoans having flagellates, they are present in flagellate group. They are having flagella for the movement. And in sporozoans, they are having those type of protists which bear spores. Now we will talk about in detail and about protozoa. So the animal like protists or protozoans, they are derived from, that word is derived from the Greek word proto means first, zoa means animal. So they are single celled animal like members of kingdom protists. So they are clearly eukaryotes having distinct nucleus and membrane bound organelles also. Unlike animals, they never develop from blastula, so that distinguish this group from animals. They are diverse in size, morphology, nutrition, locomotion, and reproduction also. And that's why protozoans are regarded as polyphyletic group. Polyphyletic group is the group of organisms in which they can have like different ancestors, because that is so diverse kingdom, that's why it can have the different ancestors, not the common ancestors. So they are unicellular, and this cell performs all physiological activity and like all type of metabolic activities, and like locomotion, reproduction, respiration, everything they do, that is done by single cell. So they vary in size, shape, and some are visible while others require high magnification microscope. So majority of protozoans are free living, but some are parasites also. So here they can have both sexual and asexual reproduction, um, but majority, because they are unicellular, so most of the protozoans having asexual reproduction. So what happened? Their ectoplasm helps in the movement, in the feeding and production as well. Like if we talk about protozoans, that is amoeba, and it is having this type of structure, and this ectoplasm just helps in the movement, feeding, all type of external activities is done by this ectoplasm. Endoplasm, which is in another layer, so that is having membrane bounded organelles like mitochondria and nucleus. So they are having special appendages as well. They can have pseudopodia, like these are the extensions, these are called pseudopodia. Pseudo means false, poda means feet. So they are having false feet because when amoeba moves, so they can change the shape of the body where they are having signals of the food, so they move that side and they can change the shape of the body. So they're like they can have flagella also. So if we see, if we just look at the structure of what we say, trypanosoma, so it is having flagella as well as zooflagellates, choanoflagellates, and vorticilla, that is also having flagella. So they include in flagellates group. And cilia also, they are having cilia are small hair like structure which are more in number and spread in whole of around whole of the body, that helps in the movement. For example, in paramecium. So protozoans also have contractile vacuoles to pump out excess water, and food vacuole as well for having the food for the digestion. Their shape may remain constant, like especially like in paramecium in ciliates, but it can change continuously like in amoeba. So if we see their body, so it is either naked or covered by a pellicle. Pellicle is the outer covering of this like cytoplasm, and locomotion like locomotory organs we have seen before, they are present like pseudopodia, cilia, or flagella, or they can be absent. And nutrition can be holophytic like it is like plants, or holozoic, it is like animals. Saprophytic also, because it can just depend on the dead bodies, dead material, or uh, they can be parasitic as well. Like if we just see trypanosoma, so trypanosoma causes a sleeping sickness in human beings, as well as epicomplexans, in which um, that is the large group of parasitic protozoa, and it causes diseases in human, that is called plasmodium, causes malaria in human beings. So they are parasitic also, and they are saprophytic also. They depends on the like dead organic matter. Digestion is intracellular, like they are having lots of food vacuoles for in which they are having food for the digestion. So there is the we can say the classification according to the locomotion mode. So amoeboid, they are in which the organisms are present which are having pseudopodia, because amoeba is having this type of structure, that's why it is called amoeboids. Ciliates like in paramecium, and flagellates, they are having flagella, one or two flagella. And sporozoa, they are non-motile sessile, and but they are produce a spore in their body. Now we'll see another group of this protist, that is plant like protist, that is algae. So plant like protists or algae, they are called the first plants. And general generally they are, definitely they are prokaryotes, they are unicellular but multicellular also. So there is that is the diverse group of that protist. So live primarily by photosynthesizing, and at the time heterotrophically ingesting also. Like as we have talked about, there's unicellular, multicellular, they are diverse organisms. So they ingest the food also, but they are also the photosynthetic, so they can live any type of aquatic environment. So we can say they are autotrophs, they are having chloroplast in them, and all are having chlorophyll A. So if we see their pigments, so color groups of food storage, cell wall composition, so there are 9 phyla of this algae, which are plant like protists. So they produce oxygen on the earth, like they are, that is the most widest group, that is the widest group which produce most of the oxygen on the earth. It does not have any type of root, stem, and leaves, and make gametes in single celled gametangia. So mostly are aquatic and have flagella at some stage of their life cycle. They store starch in pyrenoid. Pyrenoids actually are the subcellular organelle, like if we just talk about euglena. So here chloroplast is present, that is a big chloroplast. In that pyrenoid is present. So pyrenoid helps to store a starch in the plants. Here is the flagella. So there are unicellular, so they are called phytoplankton, like those plants which float in the water, uh, and they are multicellular also, like seaweeds, like kelp is we can say kelp is multicellular, and it is having 20, 50 to 18 meters long, as well as they are present in colonial form. And in that we are having the example of volvox. So algae contain chlorophyll in their chloroplast to produce food and oxygen through photosynthesis. Photosynthesis actually the process which we have seen before. The autotrophs convert sunlight into usable form of energy. They have no specialized tissues and organs. They're classified on the basis of their structure, types of pigments. They are unicellular, multicellular. Actually here you can see properly the structures, that is volvox and diatoms and kelps also, and the green algae in the down. So plant like protist, which are we can say the unicellular, we can have euglena, red dinoflagellates, diatoms, dinoflagellates, and green algae. So plant lives which are multicellular in organisms, multicellular algae. So they are red algae, brown algae, and green algae. So they are classified according to the photosynthetic pigment, and due to that pigment they are having different colors. We'll talk about green algae, that is Chlorophyta. Chlorophyta is the phylum of this green algae, in which different type of green algae are present. Chloro means green, so phyta means plant. So they are like actually like plants because they do photosynthesis as well. But here is the difference, that they are unicellular and colonial as well, like Volvox, unicellular and colonial also, and Alva, that is a multicellular. They are having both of the chlorophylls A and B as in the plants, and reproduction sexually by mitosis and asexually by meiosis. Sorry, mitosis and meiosis, like true plants do the same process. So its function is to form symbiotic relationship with other organisms. Here we can see Spirogyra, that is also the multicellular algae, green algae. Now we'll see Rhodophycophyta. So that is a red algae, and the members of this division are red in color because they are having the pigment that is called phycoerythrin. You know, erythrin means erythrocytes, like red blood cells. Erythra means red. So they are found in fresh water and marine water. So that's such a beautiful red color they are having. So the members of this division, they are multicellular, though unicellular forms are also known. So they can be up to a meter long, attached to rocks or other substances by basal holdfast. Like they are having this connection, like this type of pods, or we can say having a substrate attachment. Now we'll see brown algae. So you can see different brown colors in the algae. So they are also present in water. And so they are small forms with simple filaments to large multicellular forms up to 75 meters in length, or live in cooler marine water. So the largest brown algae is the kelps. So almost 1500 species of brown algae are found. They are also called phaeophyta. It means that they are having chlorophyll A and C and carotenes and xanthophylls, except chlorophyll B. So they give the brown color to the seaweeds, or different type of algae. Seaweed, that is the largest one, is called kelp. So reproduction is done by alternation of generations. So individual alga may grow to a length of 100 meter with a holdfast stipe and blade. Holdfast is the base, like here where the roots of the true plants are present. Stipe is the branches of that, and blades are the leaves of them. Now we'll see fungi like protist. In that we will see Myxomycota, which is also said to be slime molds, and Omycota, that is called water molds. So they are fungus like protists, and they are acellular slime molds. They are called Myxomycota, and water molds, they are called Omycota. Here you can see Myxomycota. Mycota or mycete means fungus or fungus like. So example is Myxomycota, that is plasmodial slime molds, because they form plasmodium in their life cycle. So they are having no cell wall or no membrane. So they differ from true fungi because their vegetative body consists of only protoplast bounded by membrane devoid of cell wall. In fungi, cell wall is present, but here the cell wall is not present, and they do phagotropic mode of nutrition, like eating process. So economically, they don't have any type of importance, very little, but experimentally they are very helpful for biochemistry, cytology, and genetics. So Myxomycota, its simply or common name is Plasmodial slime mold. So Plasmodium slime mold, so they are found in terrestrial or most decaying vegetation. Their growth is multinucleate single cell plasmodium. They grow into that young plasmodium. Now we will see after that its life cycle also. So cell wall is not present over there. So mode of nutrition is phagotropic, like the what we can say, the amoeba is or plasmodium is doing this process. So mode of reproduction by producing spores within sporangia, and they are either holocarpic or eucarpic. They exhibit a variable coloration also. So you can see different colors of Myxomycota. So they are holocarpic or eucarpic, like they are having spores in like whole of the body. In holocarpic, whole of the body becomes the fruiting body. In eucarpic organisms, just a little part of the body becomes the fruiting body. It means later it gives rise to sporangia and spores formation. Now we'll see its life cycle. So once a spore is released from the fruiting body, it's dispersed either by insects or any type of source. So on landing a suitable location, appropriate moisture and temperature, to 1 to 4 protoplasts are germinated. So here we can say it's fruiting body, young sporangium. Okay, so by meiosis, what happened? This is stalk, this is meiosis. Mature sporangium is there, and spores are found. When spores just arise any in favorable conditions, so that becomes a germinating spores. From there, in condition of growth are not suitable, so the cells can become microcyst to survive long period of time. Like it appears here on these spores microcyst, so they don't grow. But if the a favorable condition is there, so they grow into diploid. Zygote is formed when two compatible myxamoeba uh, or SOM cells fuse. So this is known as plasmogamy or karyogamy. So here you can see flagellated cell in case of water, but if in case of moist places, so in case of dry places, they just change into amoeboid cells. So these amoeboid cells, they can be interconverted into flagellated cell according to the environment. So they become amoeboid cells which are uninucleated, but later syngamy occurs, and these two cells unite, and they here from here the sexual reproduction is done. Like both of the unite nuclei unite, and there is syngamy, and a zygote is formed, which is 2n. So after a time of feeding and growing, the zygote develops into single-celled multinucleated feeding plasmodium structure. And if the environmental conditions are not suitable, so plasmodium can change into another dormant state, but that is known as a sclerotium. But if that is favorable conditions, so that plasmodium produces one to many fruiting bodies, like whole of the body is fruiting body like this, and that is called holocarpic, and that depends on the species also. So that's very simple. Like meiosis, after meiosis, when the spores germinate, they gonna change into plasmodium slime molds. Plasmodium slime molds spores release a haploid flagellated cell or an amoeboid cells. So that is according to the conditions. So on the solid, if there is dry conditions, so they form slimed amoeboid cells which are having slime. They become slime molds. They can be fused, syngamy occur, zygote is formed, and then change into fruiting body. Again this process is like moving again and again. Now I'll see one more fungus like protist, that is Omycota, and they are water molds or downy mildews or white rusts. That is the ancient group, and they in ancient time they become the pathogens. And because potato blight in Irish in 19th century, that disease was caused by this Omycota, and in that whole like uh, at that time period, all the crops and yield of that potato has been had been finished and had been destroyed. Due to that, the Irish people just suffering from we can say such type of shortage of the food, and the people die at the time, and where to a mortality rate at the time was very high due to uh, the shortage of the food, because Irish people just depends mostly on potato. So, 250,000 or more than 1 million people died due to famine, which is famine of potato, which is done, or which is potato, the crops are affected by potato blight in Irish in 19th century. That was due to Omycota. So Mycota or water molds are fungal like protists, and they feed on decaying organic material by absorbing nutrients through their cell walls, which are made up of cellulose. So there come the word from oyon. It means egg, and mux means fungus. So that's why it is called egg fungi. So their cell walls are composed of cellulose and main purpose is to absorb food from its surroundings. So they produce self-moving spores. Those are called zoospores, and those spores swim through water in search of food and have two flagella. So the flagella have different structures and functions. So now we will see its life cycle. Like that is having diploid life cycle, sexual and asexual both. So oogonium, that is female gametophyte, and theridium, that is the male gametophyte, in which the spores are gametes are present. So here let's just talk about from meiosis, when in the fruiting body. And antheridium, antheridial hyphae with sperm nuclei, and there is oogonium here in the center, and these are antheridium hyphae which are having sperm, and oogonium having eggs. So sperm are released in the eggs. Fertilization occur, as you can see here, like they forming the connection to the eggs and releasing sperms over there. After fertilization, zygote is formed and it releases the zygote outwards, and zygote is germinating now here. So when it germinating, so zoosporangium are formed. So you can see the release of zoospores, lots of zoospores, which are bioflagellated, as we have talked about bioflagellated, and they can live anywhere. They stay over there and started to grow and forming the cyst around it if unfavorable conditions. So in favorable condition, the germ tube is arised and whole the body is like formed. So sexual and asexual, both of the reproduction produced here. And in that you can see here it's a zoospore. In that is a flagellated in the structure, and then it just stay anywhere and then started to produce a germ tube from there, and then by meiosis, the again this all fertilization and sexual reproduction starts. It is having hyphae, like the fungi is having, but they are not a true hyphae. So by that its fruiting body is too like spread all around. So you can see its structure here. Dear students, that's it for today. We have studied about protist, and in that we have seen the diversion in the protist. Like some protists are animal like, some are plant like, and some are fungi like. So with this our topic is finished for today. Inshallah, we'll continue this chapter tomorrow in the next lecture. Wish you all the best. Allah Hafiz.